G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of HT Monaro build. So we continue on with the wiring on this episode, and what I'm about to show you is what my plan is here with the 12 volt demisters. So what I've got here is a 12 volt hairdryer. It's 210 watts, and I did the calculation and I think that's about 14 amps that draws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run two of these, one for each of these vents. I'm going to attach this to the vent. Here's one I've pulled apart, and I'm going to attach that to the vent like so, and I'm going to rewire that to go through the switch on the dash, and that's going to be my demister. Now what I've found is when I put that up onto the dash and sit that there, it actually fouls on the bottom of the dash, which doesn't allow that to mate flatly where it needs to. So what I'm about to do is I'm just going to cut that off here, around here, and somehow I'm going to attach that to there. Won't be fancy, but you won't see it. And on the back of this switch here has got an on-off position, off, fan speed 1, fan speed 2. So it's got 4 poles on the back. One will be earth, and the other ones will be the fan speed. So it's got those 3 wires there. I'd say I'm going to hazard a guess that, and I'll do an ohms check in a minute. I'll check continuity, but I'm going to hazard a guess that this is earth, and these two are fed. I don't know if you can see that. The blue wire and the white wire are fed power from that black wire. Now it's only a guess, and I'll check that out. So if I pull this out, you'll see how it is, what the setup is. Righto, just a ordinary 12 volt camping hairdryer for your wife when you're camping. So the camera is just sitting on top of a battery there. Not very impressive, but oh yeah, okay, so fan speed 2 is actually the low speed. Fan speed 1 is the high speed, which is probably the one you're going to need, and that's off. So I'll have to remember that. Fan speed 1. Let's just see how hot it gets. Not very impressive. Oh, it's starting to warm up a bit now. Anyway, so right, I can feel that when that's on 2, it's actually creating heat. When it's on 1, there's no heat. So probably not the best setup, but realistically, I've got to be honest with you, it's just going to be to keep the cops off my back. So I can say, yes, here it is. And look, that probably will do the job. That is getting quite warm now on fan speed 2. Fan speed 1, right. So work that out. So fan speed 1, it's a higher speed, but it doesn't have heat through it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check continuity with this. I'm going to pull this one apart, pull the handle off that and plug it back in and just see where the power is delivered to, and that way I'll be able to work out which one's earth and which one's power, because on the back of the switch on the car there's 2 fan speeds. So I just need to work out basically which of those wires goes where on the back of that switch on the back of the car. There's a chance that I probably should run these through a relay, the switch through a relay, because I don't think that that switch is designed to carry the 14 amps that this draws. So what I'm probably, well, it's going to be double that, isn't it? It's going to be, if it's 14, it could be 12, I can't remember. But, you know, it's going to be like 40 amps. So probably need a decent relay or two relays and just triggered from that switch, because I don't want to burn that switch out. It's not designed to carry those amps. So again, you know, I've got a rough idea what I'm doing, and I know what I want to achieve, but how do I know about going about it? It's going to take a fair bit of fiddling around, a fair bit of testing. I think I'm going to be able to work it out. And if, as I go, I will keep you guys informed and let you guys know how I'm going with it. So if you decide to do the same, you'll have an idea of the right way to go. Well, I'm going to say it's the right way, but the right way to go about it. So thanks, dudes, and I'll get back to you once I've worked a few things out. Right, so what I've worked out is that blue wire is the earth, and the reason I can tell that is because when I join the two, the earth wire there and that wire there, I'm getting 12.81 volts. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that on that multimeter. 12.81 volts. There's no power here on the white wire, and there's no power on the red wire. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to check that now. I'm going to assume so yeah, on fan speed, the high fan speed with no heat, that's the red wire. And then I'm going to assume when I do that white wire, yeah, it's quite a draw on that, because that's drawing heat. So power there, yep, and nothing on the red wire. Right. Alright, here's what I found out. So the blue wire is the earth wire. When I have it on fan speed 1, which is the higher fan, but with no heat, it's the red wire that gets power. And then when I have it on, which makes sense because that's a lighter wire, lighter gauge wire. When I have it on fan speed 2, which is the lower speed but with heat, I'm getting power at both the white and the red. The white and the red. So the fan's coming on and the heat's coming on. Work that out. Now I'm just going to try and understand how to make that work on a 3-pin switch through a relay. So I'm going to turn the camera off and figure that out and hopefully replicate it. In the meantime, also what I'm going to do is cut that off and join that in there so that that's bottom of that's not going to foul on the bottom of the dash, and then work out how I'm going to attach that to that. So I'll do that now. Oh. So I'll tidy the edge up around there. So I'll have a play with that anyway, but that is going to go there. I have seen it done before just with, I think think I've got some of this tape here. Some of this tape. So you can wrap that around it, and then maybe just some masking tape. I know tape seems a bit dodgy. You'd probably want a mechanical fixing, but look, leave it with me. I'll come up with something anyway. G'day everyone. Wanted to give you an update of how I've been going with the wiring. So here's where we're up to. I've put these gauges in here. So that's the oil temperature, the volts, and the water temperature. These ones aren't hooked up yet. That's the power for those gauges, power and an earth. And basically so is this, their power and earth as well. That's for the lights, each of those lights. So I think I've done a pretty reasonable job of, you know, making that look all pretty neat and whatever. Yeah, so that'll go in there. Now as far as this one goes, this one's done as well. I don't know how much I can show you there. I'll try and get it out. So that's all done, all the lights, the indicator lights, the coil pickup for the rev gauge, the tachometer should I say. So if I use the right terminology, the coil signal wire, the fuel sender wires connected to the fuel gauge, and then all the lights are all hooked up and linked up, should I say, not so much hooked up, because under here is where all the wires come out. So obviously that's still a shit fight. I need to go through and join it. A lot of them are just positive and negative wires for the gauges and stuff. Now in here, now I'll try and get the light under there. So in here I've got those two, hopefully you can see that, there's two 12-volt hair dryers. I'll come around to this side with the camera. I'm not sure how much you can see here, so just bear with me. For example, and that's hooked up there to the demister. So these are two 12-volt hair dryers hooked up to the demister. What I've done, I've wired them in to the back of that factory switch there. Again, hopefully you can see all this. I don't know how dark it is under there. So this is the factory switch that I'm talking about. It's a 2-speed switch, 1, 2. So that operates these hair dryers. I've bench tested it. I'll drop the link in. So that will operate the demisters, 12-volt demisters on heat and fan. So that's done. Well, they're in, but the wiring is not finished yet. They need to go through 2 relays. I've wired it all in on the bench. I'll drop it in so you can see. I've got some of the lights in. They're little globes, and I'm trying to work out where the rest of the globes go. So yeah, so certainly sort of getting there, but still a long way to go. So that's basically how that's going to look. All the gauges in. So that's just about pretty much done there. And now I just need to, I know this looks terrible. This looks like what the actual hell, but in my head it's not too bad. Yeah, just a matter of terminating them one by one and tightening it as you terminate it. There's a lot of wires there to terminate, but yeah, we're getting there. So a lot of wires for the ignition and the you know, the headlight switch and the windscreen wiper switch and all that sort of stuff. That's still got to go in behind these gauges. So yeah, we'll get there. Just playing around with it bit by bit. Cheers. Righto guys, time for an update. So this is the fan controller switch. That top switch. Now what I've got is these three wires coming in. So the top one is power coming in. The left one is fan speed 1 and that right one is fan speed 2. Now don't listen to that, I've got earth written there, but it's not, it's power. So that's switched power. So now underneath all that, I don't know if you can see it, see this black diode underneath it? That's a 10 watt diode. What that's going to do is it's going to join the two circuits when it's on fan speed 2. So I'll go into it a little bit later, and I'll put up the drawing. How that goes. So I pulled that out. I had it in the car, but I pulled it out because I've got other stuff I've got to do. Tell you what, this wiring is freaking one of the biggest jobs I've ever done. Righto, so here's the two demister fans that I'm going to be using. They're joined together with a large crimping, joiner, crimp joiner. So each of those three wires joined with three wires coming out. One being earth, one being fan speed 1, and one being fan speed 2, with fan speed 2 having a heating element running as well. Which is the reason why we need that diode, because I want to switch on both. It's easier to show you when I've got the picture up, so disregard that for a minute. Right, I've been busy in here. I've just about got to the stage where this arrangement here can be put up back in under there. What we're going to have is we're going to have a thermo fan 1, thermo fan 2. That's these two, and they're going through 40 amp circuit breakers. Then we're going to have the demister 1 and demister 2, and I think they're the next two along or something like that, coming through. Fan speed 1's only got a 30 amp. What is it? I've got it written down here somewhere. Demister 1 is going through a 30 amp circuit breaker, and demister 2's gone through a 50 amp circuit breaker, up that up a bit, and then it goes to the relays. So I've actually got it written here. Demister goes through that one there, and then the water pump and the neutral safety switch and demister 2. So demister 2 is that end one, and demister 1 is this third one in. That's all about ready to go. There's a trigger wire here for the water pump. So that's in, and all I need now is I've got all the earth wires in, the power wire, the trigger wire, and that one's just about good to go. All I'm waiting on now is to get the demisters mounted and all that, so that I can work out how long the cables need to be. But so in order to work all that out, I really need to mount that under there. Same with this back of this center gauge. So they're all earths, and rather than running like four different earths there, and then there's earths out of this one as well, I'm going to join all them. Same with these little red power wires, they're just switched power, and there's no amperage draw on them either, so there's at least 3 here, and then a couple on the on that as well. So I'm just going to join all them, and then they can go to switched power. Switched power is up there, a bus bar there. Let's get all switched power in there. So when I say switched, it means when the ignition comes on, it goes through this 200 amp main power relay and switches power onto that, and all the circuit breakers and relays get power at that point as well. Apart from, this is something else that you need to be aware of, apart from the relay for the thermo fans, that's going through the Davies Cray controller, that's earthed the fan relay, so you've got to wire that one up differently. Usually you would have the 85 as the earth and the 86 as the trigger, 87 going to the fan motor and 30 going to the battery. That's usually what you do, but because the controller provides an earth, these two need to be joined to make them work. So just to throw a cat amongst the pigeons, so all the earths are on the right hand side, sorry, left hand side, left, and these two are on the right, and they're not I don't actually earth the relay on that at all, so it just gets the fan controller gets earth off the at the fan. So look, it does look like a big mess, but I'm at the stage now where I can pretty much mount that under there, and then I can work out these ones here and mount these last of all when I've got some more room. But that's all done properly now. I'm quite happy with how neat that is, and it's just going to enable me to be able to cut all these ones to length and run them properly. So I'll probably put this in, start running some of these go up to the ignition switch and all that sort of stuff. You know, that this here is, I'm going to use that for something else. So what's that going to get used for? So that's yellow switched power as well, and another one of these ones, that's yellow switched power as well, that I don't need, so I'll be able to utilize that for potentially these. Just wire all them together, solder them all together, and then they'll have switched power. So that's probably what's going to happen there. I'm going to mount an earth here and earth that properly, and then we can start running earths everywhere as well. So I probably underestimated how time consuming this is, how big a job it is, but look, I'm getting there. I feel like I'm doing it properly. I've also got to plug this into the windscreen wipers and find out that's the switch for the windscreen wipers. Utilise that, and then last of all, like, these are for all the interior lights, and they tie into the dash lights, so I pretty much need to go and run all the interior lights as well, that circuit, so that I can plug that into the dash light circuit, and eventually that'll all go up to the switch. So you know, there's a fair bit going on. Yeah, big job, but it's not confusing to me. It's just time consuming. Yeah, underestimated how sort of difficult it would be to run all these wires and everything. That's a pain in the ass. There's another wire that's got to go to the battery, positive straight to the battery. So that's basically that one there. So yeah, get in there. Getting there. With that, guys, I think I'm going to call it a day and have a beer with me, mate. bit over it at the moment. Problem is, you're sort of sitting in the car as I am and twisting this way all day, sitting on an uneven ground. My back's friggin' sore at the best of times, so I've been going to the chiropractor. It's yeah, it's giving me the shits, but it needs to be done. Once it's done, I'm keen to see how successful I was, so I'll keep boxing on, dudes. Cheers. Morning, trendsetters. Righto, I'll give you a bit of an update. Tell you what, this wiring, it's a big job. Look, I got quotes of between 5 and 8 grand, you know, without them looking at the job, to be fair. I just sort of said to them, this is what I want done, this is what I've got, blah blah blah, and they said, they gave me a ballpark, a couple of different people, between 5 and 8 grand. Now, depending on what I was supplying. So, as you know, I thought I could do this, I could have a crack at this and do it myself. So, just a bit of an update. Headlight switch, that is in. This needs to be earthed to here, and I'm not going to do that yet because I want to test everything, but I'll obviously still have to earth that body somehow. There's 7 wires going to the steering column, the steering column plug, that new plug. I cut that plug off. I'm not sure if I've got it here. There it is there, that round thing. Yep. I cut the plug off, and I've put a Deutsch connector there instead. And the reason was because this is the old harness, and I didn't really want to use that. That looks a bit poor and old. Obviously it's got that hole there, but I can cable tie. So that was looking a bit scabby. There's the dog. So I decided to cut that off, and instead of using that, I used the Deutsch connectors. So there's a Deutsch connector in there for the what do you call it, the indicator and all that sort of wiring. The GM, just to tell you this, GM stuff on this Holden corresponds largely with this painless book I'm using, painless, as far as colours go, which has been really handy. So by way of example, it talks about the harness, which is this side. It talks about the harness in the turn signal switch section: light blue, blue, white, yellow, green, brown, purple and black. Holden have supplied me the new indicator thing that you've seen me fit, the switch in here, and it is black, purple, light blue, white, dark blue, yellow and white. Doesn't have brown. Now, brown is for the hazard lights, so I'm not too concerned about that because I don't recall this old car having hazard lights. The only thing that confused me a little bit, and I'm just going to have to see how it goes, is it says here white. It says this wire feeds the brake light power into the turn signal switch for vehicles with integrated turn/brake signals. This wire has power anytime the brake pedal is pressed. Those with separate turn and brake lights will not need this white 918 wire. Now, the way I read that is this: if this is American, you know, in the 1970s, those model cars in America, how the brake light or the tail light flashes instead of an orange indicator. So those with separate turn and brake lights, which is what I figure I've got a separate turn and brake lights, will not need this white wire. Okay, so I won't need it by going off that book. However, the Holden part has a white wire, so then we have to reference that against the book, and the book is just here. Sorry about this mess. The more work I do, the messier it gets. Now we're looking at the book. Oh, and I don't know how much of this you'll see, but I'll go over it quickly. The book, in this book, it's a white, this light green wire is a white wire, and that goes on to the, through the switch, through the flasher unit. So look, I'm going to leave it connected because this actually has that one connected, and it does say it goes through the flasher unit. I will have to see if that works. I don't know if it's going to work, but look, everything else off this is good. Tells you where everything is and what everything does. It's a little bit hard to read, but now I've got my new reading glasses, I can read. So boxing on, I think, and all you do is bit by bit. Done. Turn signal switch done. Forward columns, Mopar columns, toggle switches. A bit windy today. Horn button. That's the phone ring. Horn button. Righto, I'm gonna have to hang up. I'll get back to you in a sec. Yo! Right, sorry about that. My oldest son was ringing me. Dad, I need this. Dad, I need that. You know what it's like. All good. All good. Now, something else I just wanted to show you. I'm still not 100% sure I've done it right, but I'm following advice that I've received. See this here? Now, what's that freaking thing called? Is that a diode or a capacitor or something? It's in this book. That is mounted on the, just let me find it. Right, here we are here, sorry about that. So that is a resistor. This white wire is the exciter wire for the alternator regulator. Now, because I've got those new dash in, I don't have a charge light, and therefore I've put this resistor in. It's a 15 ohm, I could only find a 5 watt resistor, so it's a 15 ohm 5 watt resistor, and it's in basically in lieu of your charge light, your dash light. I could have put a globe in there and it would have done the same job. So I've done that to excite the alternator, and I think I've already shown you the other sneaky thing that I had to do on this was a diode on the switch to make power go one way but not the other, and I've said to you I will show you the map, a drawing of the dual relay system I'm doing for that. So at this stage, that's all I've done. I'm going to hang up, put the camera down, should I say, and it is a mess, and I am a bit concerned about it, to be honest. But the more I go through it, the more I'm putting cables away and finishing them off and all that, the less shit's lying around. Obviously we've got the ignition over there. Don't know what this is for yet, but once I've worked through all of the wires, this plug here is for that little screen for the controller. It's a bit of a mess in there, yes it is. I haven't quite finished the relays. I've just got the trigger wire for the neutral start switch, I think needs to go in there, and then I can go about, I figure, yes it looks a mess, but once you start cable tying everything, hopefully all this will go up and I'll be able to cable tie it up into this area here somehow behind the dash and affix it. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm just trying to get the lengths of, say, all these ones that go under the dash, that's all your switches and that, long enough so that I can pull them to where they need to go, but not too long that there's so much excess wiring. So I'm hoping once, you know, for example, this lot of wires here that's just sitting there, I'm hoping once all those are terminated that it's not going to look so much of a pile of shit, and I'll be able to start cable tying everything and, you know, making it neater under there. I don't know how Auto Sparkies do this. You know, it's my first time, and I'm pretty anal. Like I like things to be quite neat and tidy and done right. I feel like I've done a reasonable job with the wiring. I've done away with using those little solder bloody things. I just read too much about them that people weren't. I haven't got them in here. Those heat shrink things with a little bit of solder in there that join wires. I've done away with them, so I did use them a little bit on the front of the engine, around the headlights and stuff like that. Pretty easy access. I can always, if I run into problems, I know where to look. And that's one thing I guess about doing this yourself is, like, I've got a very good idea of where everything is and what it's all doing and whatever. And you know, like if I have a fault, I know where I can start looking. I've started sort of, you know, like all these connectors here. I'll put heat shrink around the connectors on all these plugs and stuff. It's all got the heat shrink there. I didn't do it on the back of that so much, and I used a few of those connectors, but these ones here, these ones here I've used rather than solder. But I'm going to put it all together like that, and if I run into problems as I go later on down the track, I know where to look and I can fix it. So we're getting there. Massive job. I've been on this for weeks, to be honest. I haven't done it all day every day, because you're sitting in the car like this, you're sitting on an uneven bloody floor pan, twisting in. My neck's fucking got a pull in it, you know. It's a shit job. It's just a shit job, and it's so time consuming. So if I've got to be fair to those guys that quoted me $5,000 to $8,000, I can see where you charge your money. Obviously you get it done quicker than me, but I can see where you charge your money to some degree. So with that, I'll keep boxing on. Cheers, guys. Righto, guys. I get a bit sick of this wiring, but it's certainly kicking goals with it. Very long process, but anyway, it occurred to me that some of you might not know how to test continuity on something, to test your switches and headlight switches and ignition and windscreen wiper switches and things like that. I've said it before and I'll say it again, because I don't want to fucking give you the wrong drum, but from my limited knowledge, I've got myself, you know, got my multimeter, and if you look at the multimeter, I've got it set for ohms, which is just above my thumb there, and for some reason I set it on 60k and it seems to work fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I go about checking for continuity on something, and I don't really know how I'm going to do it. I put the bin in front of me to set the camera, but you sort of need three hands, don't you? One to hold the camera, one to hold the multimeter, and one to hold the what do you call it? Anyway, but I'm not really sure how to do this. So if I sit that there, I'll pull the bin forward, right like that. This should be pretty right. Now, these switches are old and dodgy. No two ways about it. So this is the one that came out of the car, and I know it was working. So basically, I've got that earthed. It earths to the body of the switch, so that's earthed. And what you should be able to do is, now again, as I say, I'm not an auto electrician. I don't know the first thing about it. I'm not going to be telling bullshit to you, but I know that when you touch those two things, that goes to zero. So it's reading 0 ohms. That makes a contact. And I know through my experience that when I've touched, tested stuff, that's how you do it. So I don't know the science behind it, but that's what you do. So every single one of these poles, that should not change, because the switch is in the off position. So I'm looking down, I'm trying to bloody do this by looking at the camera, checking all of these poles, and that's none of them are on. Let's turn the switch on to fan speed 1 and wash windscreen speed 1. Now there is a 1 on the thing that tells me that's for speed 1. So theoretically, once if I've got a good grounding on that, and once I touch this post here with that, this multimeter should go to 0. And there it is, at 0. So let's just test the other ones. Nothing there, nothing here, and nothing there. However, this switch actually has a wash feature, and it is by pushing this button in. So fan speed 1 with that applied should have power on the 1 terminal and the wash terminal, or it should show continuity to tell me the switch is working. So this one is the 1 terminal, perfect. And this one's the wash terminal. And again, perfect. Now if I let go of that switch, nothing. Turn the switch on, something. So what we've established is that the switch works in position 1 and on wash in position 1. So let's flick it around to position 2 and check position number 1. Nothing. Good. This one's position number 2, so this should have continuity here. And it does. Perfect. Let's check the wash. Nothing. Now again, if I push that wash button in, this should have continuity on the wash pole. And it does. Go to number 3 again. Number 2 again. And it's again showing continuity there, which tells me the switch is functioning the way it should. So I'm going to hedge my bets that this third one here is power in. This is just a guess actually. So that should be power in, and then that should be wash speed 2, windscreen wiper speed 2, windscreen wiper speed, I'm not holding it up very well, am I? Windscreen wiper speed 2, windscreen wiper speed 1, and wash when either of those two when the button's pressed, while either of those two washers are activated. So yes, yeah, it's earth through the body, showing 0, you know, when I get a good earth, which I'm not getting a very good earth, but as soon as you do, that'll go down to 0. Perfect. So number 3 would be power in. Turn that off. And people, that's how I check all my switches. I work out what wire goes where, corresponding with the manual. You can look at the manual and it tells you what colour wires and all that sort of stuff. And that's it. I hope that helps you. I hope that helps you test your switches if you didn't know. I think tomorrow, it's getting late in the day today, I think tomorrow I should just about have the inside of the car finished. I've got a plan drawn out for some power wires that I've got. Certainly made a bit of progress today. So tomorrow I should have that done, and then it's just a matter of terminating the boot, which I don't reckon would be a big job. I would dearly love to be able to turn the ignition on tomorrow and check, start checking through everything. So I believe the process in that is to hook up a 10 amp battery. So I'll grab the battery. Actually, just reminded me, I've got to put that on charge. I was just going to grab the battery out of my boat brake. You know, the boat brake bloody applier for the breakaway. Just a little small, like a motorbike battery, little 10 amp one. Or I can grab the battery out of my motorbike as well, I suppose. Just make sure that one on the boat trailer is charged. Grab a hold of that, and that's the one that I'll probably be using to go through and test all the circuits. So quite looking forward to that. Let me say this, it has been a prick of a job. I haven't enjoyed it very much, but I thought that I was going to need to, that's going to turn off that multimeter. I thought I was going to need some assistance from an auto sparky. I thought I was going to do as much as I could and then give it to an auto sparky to test. or not to get shit to work. Let me say this. Obviously I haven't tested it yet, so I don't want to get 2 steps ahead of myself, but what I can tell you is that I feel like I've been able to work shit out. I feel like I've got to the bottom of most of the stuff. Just tested that. That was the last thing, this windscreen wiper controller, a button or whatever the fucking thing is, switch, and this works. So look, you know, power in and that's it. It's a lot easier than I thought it was, in the sense of there's no great science, but having said that, we haven't tested everything yet. I don't know if everything's going to work. There is a possibility that you know, stuff might go wrong. There's no grey area there. I'm not trying to say anything otherwise. So thanks for watching, dudes. I do want to get to that state of testing before I wrap up this episode, so we'll get back to it tomorrow, and I will hopefully nut it all out and be able to run you through the testing process, and then we can wrap up this episode. So cheers, dudes. Peace. G'day guys. Well, here we are. We're at the stage now where I've put power on, but I haven't turned the ignition on. I've got the lovely wife here to help me, another set of ears and noses. Now what it says to do is to test with a 10 amp battery, so that's an 8 amp battery. So hopefully if anything goes boom, nothing should go boom, we should be pretty right. So I've connected the, what's up, come here. What are you laughing at?
Because I was going to trick you and be like, shit, smoking. I can't stop laughing.
She's a dickhead. She's a dickhead. So, we've connected power. Oh yeah, you're so funny, mate. You're hilarious. Right, so I've connected power, and so far so good. Nothing untoward has happened. I must admit, I'm very, very nervous.
I thought you said you weren't going to start it.
No, I've got to turn the key on, not to start it though. I'm not going to start it right now. I'm just going to turn the accessories on, and you guys are here with me whilst I do that.
You can do it on film. Just the bit I don't like.
So there we go, that's accessories on. Not accessories, that's... Right, we've got nothing. It's a good start, isn't it? Fucking hell. Righto. I'll go through and try to work out why we've got no power. Anyway, cool. Right, I know I look like a dickhead, and I am, you got that part right, but there's no fuse in here. I forgot to put the main maxi fuse in there, which goes between here and here. So I'm going to do that right now, and then we'll have another go. Righto, so I was missing the fuse, dickhead. Anyway, nerves are still sky high, but we're getting there. I'm just looking for something, sorry. The fuse that I had ready to go in there is a maxi fuse. It's actually too big, so I had to modify it. It'll still do its job as a fuse, but it's not the right one, but it'll still, like, you know, do the job as a fuse. Righto, so let's take two and see what happens. Mustn't have something right with that fuse, with the ignition. All right, baby, you can go. I'm going to need to play around with this.
You're still filming, you know.
Yeah. Right, so it occurred to me again that you know, I started at the back and started checking the earths and all that. I thought, hang on, I don't think I've done the earth up on the engine. So down here, I need to do this one up, don't I? And that's too big, so let me get that done up and we'll attempt number 3. Look, to be honest, I'm a bit dubious about couldn't find much information about how to do the ignition, so I don't even know if the ignition's actually wired up properly. Sorry about not looking at camera. But yeah, so, you know, I'm just going to have to keep playing and work it out. So let me see if I can get power if I do this earth up, because that obviously needs to be done. Righto, we're getting there. So I've put the main earth on, and now I've tested. I've got power here. I know this looks like a piece of shit under here, and it is, but my theory is that I need to leave everything exposed before I go wrapping it and tidying it up so that I can fault find if I need to. So although it looks messy, I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to get it to look pretty neat and tidy. So yeah, now I need to just turn that ignition on and see what happens. So take 3 or whatever it is. Let's have a look. So in theory, when I turn this key on, I should hear a click, and that's the main relay. Oh, would you look at that? Here we go. So I've got fuel, I've got the kilometre an hour thing on, the speedo. I'm obviously thinking while I'm talking. I've got oil pressure gauge showing a light. I've got the volts showing 12 point whatever they are volts. I've got no oil temperature and no water temperature, and that little screen's not on. I think I can't smell anything, so on that I think I will go the next stage. One more click. So that's accessory. So far that's doing what it should be doing, and not having any of the gauges on. When I turn that on, everything seems all right there too. The voltmeter, the oil pressure, which is going to be 0, showing a little bit of fuel, which should be about right. Yeah, we've got headlights. That's excellent. Righto, so as you'd imagine, there's a few things working and a few things not working. I'm going to, I don't seem to have a light on the fuel gauge. All the other lights are working. That's cool. Right, I think I'll turn this off because it's important that I go through and check everything properly. So, cheers. G'day everyone, I'm back at it again today, and I just wanted to apologise for yesterday. I was a bit vague while I was trying to talk to the camera and talking to, you know, trying to work things out in my head. What was I missing? I should have slowed right down. I didn't have the main power connected to the post under the dash there from the battery. I didn't have the earth connected. I didn't have the maxi fuse in, so no wonder it wasn't going to start. I run into issue. I was trying to rush. Should have slowed down and just thought about it. So I just wanted to apologise in advance before you see that. Had a lot on my mind and can't think of 2 things at once. So yeah, cheers for that. Where I got to is I managed to get the car started yesterday, However, the fuel, this is a CP30 relay. What it does is it gives 2.5 seconds of power to from this relay to the fuel pump relay, and that's enough to prime it. And then what happens is it turns off until you start the car, and then the wiring diagram says that this end one, the yellow one here, goes to your negative side of your coil, which is what I did. And what that was doing is it actually wasn't turning the fuel pump on. It wasn't putting power from that CP30 relay to the fuel pump relay. And I couldn't work it out. The car would run, but it just didn't have fuel pressure, so it didn't run for very long. What I worked out, I haven't tried it yet, so you're about to see if I'm right, but what I worked out is that it being a digital ignition I was thinking, well, the tachometer wire to get a pulse from the coil comes from this grey wire. So what I've done is I've wired this relay into the grey wire instead of the negative on the coil, and I hope that is enough to give us the fuel prime. So I'm just going to turn that ignition on. Oh, actually I won't do that yet because I haven't got the battery connected. The other issue I did is that the car wouldn't start, wouldn't turn off. That's a pretty easy fix just with one of these. Well, again, I haven't tried it yet, but that's a pretty easy fix with a diode. What I believe happens is that these bigger amperage alternators, once they get going, they can backfeed with your digital 6AL MSD ignition, can backfeed power through the charge light, which I haven't got, but I've got a 10 watt resistor in there, and that might not be enough of a resistance to stop that backfeed. Again, as I've said all along, I'm not an auto electrician, so if an auto electrician's listening and I've got that wrong, my bad. But it's along those lines, so it'll backfeed into the ignition system, which won't turn, and it won't turn the car off. So I've put one of these diodes in at the exciter wire on the alternator. That silver stripe goes towards the alternator, and that is I think it was a 6 amp or a 3 amp. It doesn't really matter. You can get 1 amp. That'll do the job. I think it was possibly a 3 amp diode, and I think it was 400 volt or something. So that's all you do from J-car. Again, I haven't tested it yet. We've got to go and test it. So bear with me. I'll go and put the battery on, and then we'll see where we're at with this, see if I've got it right. Cheers. Righto, let's give it a go. I'll try and start it. So if I put so that has primed the fuel pump. A bit of a rev up, turn on. I just need to see if I've got fuel pressure. Yeah. So having that fuel pressure tells me that I fixed that with that relay. We've got the green light on there, so that's fixed that. Now, can I turn it off? See if I fix that other problem. Yep, fixed it. Beautiful. So I was right with this. It's got a digital ignition, and you want to run a CP30, you need to wire it into the tack coil. Everything else is good. So I'm going to turn that off now. Bear with me. Righto, so as I say, the CP30, the reason behind that is so that you can, if you have a crash and your motor stalls, it stops pumping fuel. That'll stop the fuel pumping if it doesn't have a reading from the coil or grey wire on the digital 6AL if you have got an MSD like I do. So with that, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I've got a bit of fault finding to do. I don't think the high beam was working on the headlights. There's a few other things, but look, I haven't got the tail lights wired in yet. I haven't tried the any of those rear lights, so I need to go through that and wire all them in, and then just start the fault finding process. And I did think that there would be some sort of problems, but I'm glad those two issues have been fixed and everything seems to be working. So happy days on that. Cheers, guys.